happened? Breaking news just in. Adam Schefter, what can you tell us?
The Las Vegas Raiders are signing Kirk Cousins to play quarterback out in Vegas, where Fernando Mendoza is expected to be the #1 pick. There's a connection between the Raiders head coach Clint Kubiak and Kirk Cousins. They spent 3 seasons together in Minnesota. They now will be reunited in Las Vegas, and there's a real possibility that the Raiders' opening day starting quarterback will be Kirk Cousins over the #1 potential pick, Fernando Mendoza. But Kirk Cousins, who moved on from Atlanta, who wanted to continue playing, now has reached agreement this morning with the Las Vegas Raiders.
I don't like it. I love it. I've said it a million times. Don't throw these kids out there and put them in a position where they have to be the guy, not only week 1, but starting from the very beginning of training camp. I think this is a great move. And Tim Hasselbeck, I literally had just pointed out, because I saw it while I was in Phoenix with the owners meeting stuff, that Clint Kubiak had said, in a perfect world, Fernando won't be the starter at the very beginning. We'd like to find a veteran who could come in and play. Not 100% sure we'll be able to make that happen. And here they are now, able to make it happen. What do you make of this? Cousins to the Raiders, Tim.
I love it. I love it. I love the history between Kubiak and Kirk Cousins. I love the type of veteran that you're signing for Mendoza to learn from. Cousins will be an absolute pro in terms of how he prepares. Not that Mendoza needs some unbelievable example in terms of that. Seems like he's already off to a good start, but it's a good confirming example for him. It's also a guy that has the battle scars of playing in an offense and some of the things that Mendoza is going to be able to learn from. So, look, I think it's a perfect environment, especially on a team. I said it earlier. It's a brutal gauntlet of quarterbacks to play in that division. It's a brutal, gauntlet of defenses to play in that division. And so Mendoza not being thrown to the fire immediately is also not a bad thing for him.
Jordan.
Best thing that could have ever happened to Fernando Mendoza, and he hasn't even stepped foot in an NFL locker room yet. And I mean that. This is an opportunity to learn, to pace yourself without the pressure that goes into being a #1 overall pick on a roster that, frankly, is probably not ready for you to have success with that wide receiver room. I cover the UFL right now. It looks like a UFL roster in that wide receiver room. A lot of names that you're like, oh, I kind of remember that guy. He was okay in college. They need to bolster that. Having a veteran like Kirk Cousins, and even more importantly, a veteran that plays the position the same way that Fernando Mendoza does. Wins between the ears. Good arm, not great arm talent. A guy that can win from the pocket and teach you and help you learn that process before the pressure really amps up.
I think you're 1,000% right. Think about the situation he's walking into. The 2 guys who can mentor him are Kirk Cousins, who is a pro's pro, and Tom freaking Brady, who is the greatest quarterback of all time and obviously was maniacal in preparation and study and all that kind of stuff. So Mendoza, you don't draft a quarterback #1 because you want to win the Super Bowl this year. You draft a quarterback #1 because you want to be in it for the next 15 years. I don't think it could be starting better. There's no way it could be starting better for Mendoza than this.
And it's also interesting to me, in Atlanta, Kirk Cousins did not choose to work with Michael Penix.
Right.
He was hoisted on him, surprisingly, when the Falcons used the 8th overall pick on Penix. In this particular case, Kirk Cousins is choosing to work with Fernando Mendoza.
Right.
This is somebody that he obviously had an option about whether or not he wanted to work with this young quarterback, and he chose to sign with Las Vegas. He chose to sign on to work with Fernando Mendoza. He did not do that in Atlanta. These are a different set of circumstances, and Kirk Cousins will be a great quarterback for Fernando Mendoza to be around.
Okay, so it's a good story. It doesn't feel like stop the presses, but I think it is significant, particularly with as much interest as there is, to see Fernando Mendoza at his pro day. We know he's going to be the first pick in the draft. He threw a wide range of passes as well as threw on the run. It's the first time we've seen him really in any significant way since he won the national championship with the Hoosiers. We know he didn't do much at the Combine, but he looked like him. Yep. What were you hearing yesterday from people? I know you were at the owners' meetings and all that sort of thing, but all the people who matter were here to watch this. What did you hear from people?
Green, he cemented his status as the #1 pick yesterday.
Yeah.
He's going to visit with the Raiders in Las Vegas next week. They already have him learning their offense, getting up to speed on what he'll be doing in 2026 under Clint Kubiak. There's no drama as to what we're going to be seeing 3 weeks from tonight in Pittsburgh, and he looked the part yesterday. He threw the ball long effectively. He had short throws. He commanded the huddle. He had the type of character that you want out of the number 1 overall pick, which he is expected to be 3 weeks from tonight.
Yeah, I think that's for certain. And there's every reason in the world that it makes sense. Jordan, you've got some tape for us here. What do you see in Fernando Mendoza as we get set to make him the first pick in the draft to try and revitalize a Raider team that has really struggled for a long time?
Yeah, before we get to the tape, I just want to say it is really easy to go grab 1 or 2 throws and say, oh, this guy's doing this or that. It's harder to find something consistently that pops up for Fernando that you go, this is something I think he needs to fix. So that's the reason he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. But there are 2 things I think that consistently come up in film with Fernando. The first is pocket presence, under pressure, leaving the pocket a little bit too early and always kind of exiting to his right. And the other would be mechanics on the move. Here's the pocket presence. He's got a clean pocket here, working through progressions, no reason to panic. Stay there, stay firm. This is that kind of bad habit, always escaping to his right, even when pressure doesn't dictate it. If he stays in the pocket, resets, he's got a guy wide open in the end zone for a touchdown, just panics a little too early, something that pops up again in this Ohio State game. He's got time in the pocket here. Just step up, reset that pocket closer to the offensive lineman. There's a nice little envelope there. And you got a crossing route that comes open on the numbers on the other side. Could have been a big play. His eyes drop a little bit under pressure. When he gets through his reads too quickly, he scrambles. That's something that does show up, not just in Ohio State game, but in a lot of games. Here's the mechanics on the run. Watch this throw, and watch his shoulders and his feet in particular. Watch how he lands on 2 feet here. When he throws on the run, especially to the right, he jumps when he throws. So he loses a lot of his lower body torque, and he also doesn't get that right shoulder through the throw. When you're throwing on the run, because you lose your lower body, you have to be better with your upper body. He kind of always finishes with his chest and his shoulders square, which means he's losing velocity. That was an interception. There's a couple other throws that pop up, especially to the right. So he's just got to be a little, tighten up those mechanics. Don't jump when you throw. You actually want to double tap on your right foot so you can torque your hips through the throw. I know we're getting in the weeds here.
Yeah.
There are a few things, and just a few, that pop up with Fernando. He's so good. That's the reason he's going to be the number 1 overall pick.
And I want to make it completely clear what the conversation that we are having, because there seems to have been a lot of controversy around anyone suggesting anything else. He's going to be the first pick. We all agree he's going to be and should be the first pick. We asked Jordan to put together a look at what are the things he needs to work on at the next level to make himself the best player he can be. That's the reason that we're looking at those things. And
with the Raiders,
they are things. I mean, they're all these guys come in and they need to get better, and so these are the things we're suggesting he needs to work on. Tim, do you think he is set up for success? We've watched the Raiders have a pretty interesting offseason. They've added a lot of pieces, spent a bunch of money, particularly right in front of him at the center position. Do you feel like he's set up to have success quickly on the next level?
I do believe he's set up for success, but just not quickly. I mean, first off, just look at the division that he's going to get drafted into. I mean, it's probably the toughest gauntlet of quarterbacks in any division that somebody would have to come in and face. When you're talking about, Bo Nick's been a playoff, quarterback each and every year. There's Patrick Mahomes, and then you obviously, are dealing with the Chargers. So I just think when you look at that and you say immediate success, when you're talking about 6 games a year against those types of quarterbacks, and then the fact that they've been a really bad team, like they haven't been good. There's a reason, even internally, that they felt like, look, let's trade Max Crosby, let's get 2 first-round draft picks and try to rebuild this around a young quarterback. So I don't think it's immediate success. I do think there'll be growing pains like there, usually is for quarterbacks. But I do think that with everything that is happening there in terms of head coach, quarterback, investing in a center, and what the future could look like, yeah, I do think he should be an excellent pro.
I think their entire offseason has been devoted and dedicated around Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
Going out and paying Tyler Linderbaum to make him the highest paid center in NFL history, highest paid interior offensive line. That's for Fernando Mendoza. Hiring Clint Kubiak, who's going to implement a running game that's effective, that's going to take pressure off the quarterback. That's designed for Fernando Mendoza. And I would imagine that even the draft here, once again, will be designed around protecting Fernando Mendoza.
Hopefully.
Yeah, they need receivers, and I saw Kubiak say that they would, in a perfect world, they'd like to have a veteran quarterback presence that could start instead of him at the very beginning, but they're not sure if they'll have that in the building. They traded away Geno Smith, so we'll see if he